This is March 2012 modular paper, Statistics and Probability, Unit 1. Question 1 is just your basic frequency table. Marta asked some students how many cans of drink they each drank yesterday. The table shows her results, number of cans and frequency. So frequency means how often that happened. Work out the total number of cans these students drank yesterday. The total number of cans. The temptation here is to add up the frequency column, but that's not what's required. 6 people drank 0 cans. So in order to find out a total of that, you'd need to do 0 times 6, which is 0. 9 people drank 1 can, so that part accounts for 9 cans. Here, 7 people drank 2 cans, so there's 14. Here, 9. Here, 8. Here, 5. So in order to find the total amount of cans, I need to do 9 add 14 add 9 add 8 add 5 equals 45. Now this is a calculator paper. You do not need a calculator to add those together, but if it's a calculator paper, you may as well. With regards to marks, you get 1 mark up here for showing an attempt to multiply the number of cans by the frequency, and then down here you get an accuracy mark for getting the right answer. Question 2 is a ratio question in part, but there's a lot of reasoning that needs to go into this as well. Mrs. Collins is organising a school trip. 120 students are going on the trip. The ratio of the number of staff to students must be 1 to 15. I'm straight away going to write staff to students 1 to 15. Mrs. Collins books 3 coaches for the trip. Each coach has 42 seats. Are there enough seats for all the students and staff? You must show all of your work in. I need to know 2 things here. I need to know how many people from the school are going on the trip, that's staff and students. And then I also need to know how many seats are on the coach. So first thing I'm going to do is work out what the availability of the coach is, because that's the easiest part. So there are 42 seats on each coach, and there are 3 coaches. So on the coach we've got enough for 126 people. So there's 126 seats. Now let's find out what's going on with regards to the number of people we need. So for every 1 member of staff, 15 students are allowed to go. Now they've told us here that there are 120 students going on the trip. So if there are 120 students, I need to know how many staff that represents. In order to do this, I need to find what 1 part is equal to, because there is 1 part staff to 15 part students. Now, if I know that 15 parts is equal to 120 people, then 1 part is going to be divided by 15. So I'm going to do 120 divided by 15, and that's going to tell me that 1 part is worth 8 members of staff. So now I can find the total people that would need to go on the trip. There are 120 students and 8 staff, which means there's 128 people that need to go on the trip. But I've only got 126 seats. So I can make my statement, and the question was, are there enough seats for all students and staff? So the answer starts with no. There are only 126 seats, but 128 students and staff need to go. So there are 2 seats too few. So no, there are only 126 seats, but 128 students and staff need to go, so there are too few seats. With regards to how this is marked, you get 1 mark for working out how many seats are on the coach. You get a 2nd mark for here, and that's working out the total amount of people. You get another mark up here for showing that you know how to find what one part is. And then you get your C1 down here for the communication of the answer. Question 3 is a straightforward probability question. Here's a 5-sided spinner. The table shows the probabilities that the spinner will land on 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. And there's your table. So there's a 0.15 probability of landing on a 1, 0.1 probability of landing on a 3, and so on. Pete spins the spinner once. Work out the probability that the spinner will land on a number greater than 2. Now that's not 2, it's greater than 2. So I'd be happy with that, or that. And the fact that I emphasise the word or there is critical, because if you're looking at something happening or something else happening, that is your sign to add probabilities. Alternatively, if the question was asking for something and something, then I would need to multiply my probabilities. But this is an or question, so I would be happy with that, or that, or that. And when I add those up, that gives me 0.65. Again, it's a calculator paper, make sure you use it. Now there is an alternative method for this, which I'll just do over here. Because you could either go down the route of adding them all up, or you could use the rule that we are interested in everything happening other than these two. So these two are worth 0.35. So I want the probability of these two things not happening. And if I just write up here, if the word not is mentioned, then that's your cue to do 1 takeaway than the probability of everything else. So the alternative is finding the 1 takeaway 0.35, which again is going to give you 0.65. Either way is fine. This is probably the easiest. With regards to how marks are allocated for this, you get 1 mark for showing an intention to add those together, and you get an accuracy mark for 0.65 or equivalent. So that means if you had it as a percentage, fine, fraction, fine. With regards to this method, you would get 1 mark for seeing 1 take away 0.35 and the A1 for doing it that way. Part B, Eleanor is going to spin the spinner 200 times. So that there was 1 time. This is 200 times. Work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on a 5. Well, what's the probability of getting a 5? It's 0.3. So I want to find 0.3 of, and of means times, so 0.3 of 200. So I would put that into my calculator and that would give me the answer of 60. So I can expect to land on a 5 60 times. That's a 2-mark question again. 1 mark for showing your method, an accuracy mark for giving your answer. Question 4 is one of those questions that requires a lot of thinking around a problem and a very logical layout. Deborah and Mark are planning to go on a cruise. They can travel with one of 2 companies, Caribbean Calypso or Royal European. The table shows the cost per person to travel with each company, Caribbean Calypso, Royal European. Caribbean Calypso has a discount of 10% if you book online. Royal European has a discount of 5% if you book online. Deborah and Mark are going to book a suite for their cruise. They are going to book online. So the fact that they're going to book online means this is important. Deborah and Mark want to pay the lowest possible cost. Which company should they choose? Show all your work in. So the ultimate question is, which company should they choose? Now, first of all, the fact that it says that they're booking a suite means any other information in the table I do not need. I am just looking at the suites. So what am I doing? I'm comparing two things. I'm comparing Caribbean Calypso and I'm comparing Royal European. That's how I'm going to set it out. So Caribbean Calypso, let's have a look at the price first of all. For a suite is £2,329. So £2,329. For Royal European for a suite, it's £2,147. Now there are 2 people going, so I'm going to multiply that by 2, and that's going to tell me that the total cost for both of them is 4,658 with the Calypso, and it's 4,295 with Royal European. So I'm just going to write here 1 people, 2 people. So that's the price for both of them. Now let's look at discounts. So Caribbean Calypso has a discount of 10%. And Royal European is minus 5%. Now this is a calculator paper. If it wasn't, I'd advise you to find 10%, then half of 5 and work it out that way, then take it off. We can be a little slicker in a calculator paper if we consider that the cost of the holiday at full price is 100%. Then a 10% reduction means you're only paying 90% of the asking price. And the same for Royal European. If it was 100% and we're taking away 10%, that means we're only actually paying, 5%. It means we're only actually paying for 95% of the holiday. So the fact I've worked out I'm only paying for 90% of that price and 95% of that price means I can use the multipliers to work out my values. So discounts. I want to find 90% of 4,658, and here I'm only paying 95% of 4,295. Now it's a calculator paper. 90% is 0.9 times by 4,658, and 95% is 0.95 times by 4,295. So when I tap that in my calculator, I end up with £4,192.20, and don't forget your units. And over here I end up with £4,079.30. So that's my final working out. Final price. Well, which is cheaper? I can see that Royal European is the cheapest. So I'm going to make sure I answer the question now. The question said, which company should they choose? So I'm going to say they should choose Royal European because it only costs $4,079.30 compared to Caribbean Calypso, which costs £4,192.20. Okay, so they should choose Royal European because it only costs $20, and I might even choose, just to make the statement there, Royal European are cheaper. Okay, now how the marks are allocated for this. Again, it's a logical question. They're allocated in a logical way. You get 1 mark purely for identifying the correct piece of information from the table. So that's your method mark. You get another mark for finding, down here, the correct percentages. 1 mark for each. Okay. You then get an answer mark or an accuracy mark for finding those figures. And I'm just checking, do you need both of them? Yes, so both figures. No, not both figures. Yes, both figures. Final answer, definitely. So you need both answers, and then you get a communication mark down here for communicating your answer to the examiner. Question 5 is stem and leaf. You'll be lucky to get this in an exam because it really is something you can just learn and then do. Here are the heights in centimetres of 20 sunflower plants. Draw an ordered stem and leaf diagram for these heights. Right, well the first thing I'm going to do, they've given you the grid and the key here. If they haven't given you a key, there's 1 mark for putting a key. Alright, regardless of anything else. So first thing I'm going to do is have a look what type of numbers I'm dealing with. I might even look for the smallest one and the largest one just to see what stems I need. 70s, 80s, 70s, 90s, 80s, 100, 90s, 70s. So looking at it, they're all 70s, 80s, 90s and 100s. There's nothing above that. So I'm going to put a 7 there for the 70s, 80s, 90s, 100. Now to make sure I don't miss any, I'm going to follow a logical method of circling first of all of the 70s. So that's a 70, 70, 70. So there's 3 numbers in the 70s. Now I've circled them, I can compare them a lot easier to find the smallest one first. So 73, 78, 71. 71 is the smallest, so there's 71. Then I've got 73. Then I've got 78. Look how spaced out I'm making this. It just makes my life easier for the second part. Now I'm going to circle my 80s. There's an 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. Now I'm going to start comparing. 81 is my smallest. Then I've got 84. I've got another 84. There's an 87. There's 88. And I'm going to do my 90s. 90, 90, 90, 90, 90. Lots of 90s. My smallest 90 is 91. Then it's going to be 92. Then it's going to be 93. Then it's going to be 95. Then it's going to be 96. Then it's going to be another 96. Then it's going to be another 96. And then it's going to be my final one, which is 98. Now I'm going to do my hundreds. I don't need to circle them, I can see they're there. My lowest one is 100. Oh, that should only be 10, sorry. So 100, there's 101, there's 103, and there's 104. And I'm going to put my key in. I'll take the first number here. If I've got 7, line 1, that equals 71 centimetres. With regards to how those 3 marks are broken up, you get 2 marks for a fully correct diagram. You get 1 mark if it's not ordered, but they are all correct, and vice versa, you get 1 mark if they are ordered and you've made one error or you've left one number out. Then you get 1 mark down here for getting the key right, and there's your 3 marks. Now, part B, they're asking you to find the median height. So the median is the one in the middle when they're in order. So we've put them in order. In order to find the median, I know that there are 20 sunflower plants because it told me that up there. So I'm going to do 20, add 1, and the fact I'm adding 1 means that it allows for a more accurate answer. So I do 20, add 1, divided by 2. The reason I'm dividing by 2 is so I can find halfway. So I end up with 21 over 2, which is going to give me 10.5. That is not my median. It's telling me to find the 10.5th sunflower plant. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This here is going to be my 10.5. So I have to find the value between 92 and 93. Now to find the middle value of 2 numbers, I add them together, then divide by 2. And hopefully you'd be able to know that the halfway point between 92 and 93 is 92.5. That's just a 1 mark question for getting the answer right. You could, of course, do the crossing out method of 71 gone 104. Cross, 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 cross. And then you'd end up with those 2 in the middle, in which case you'd still have to do 92 and 93 and find the middle.